Miss Willow. Are you hiding under the table? You're supposed to be executive producer. You gotta help me. Come on. There you go. All right, give me a high five. Thank you for the high five. Thank you, Miss Willow. All right, you ready? Let's do this. Hello, and welcome back to Women for Wealth. So today I want to talk about mindset and budgeting. Women tend to be more emotional. Not to say we can't be logical, because we can be, but a lot of times, we allow our emotions to help us make decisions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I will say, women managing households, career, caregiving, and business, that's a lot. That is a lot. We have an emotional overload. So when you're told you have to have a strict budget that is going to make you feel guilty about spending your money, that's a problem. That's not the right mindset to have. Real, rigid, strict budgets don't tend to work in real life. Most budgeting systems are based on fixed income assumptions, and they're around linear expense patterns, and they're built for simplicity over complexity. But real life is anything but that. In real life, school fundraisers come and go, medical copays can pop up at any moment unexpected. There might be last minute travel. There might be seasonal expenses you didn't anticipate. There's a lot of things that happen in a complex life. You have to be ready to be flexible, because rigid budgets are going to break. It's like a tree. A rigid tree will break and die in a storm. A tree that's got flexibility, it just sways in the wind. And so I want you to be more like a tree that sways in the wind. You need to have some things in place to help you control and help you to know, measure, and understand, but you don't want it to be so rigid that it's going to break. So let's talk about it. Women tend to carry household financial planning, because a lot of women do the buying of, whatever the house needs, be it food or pantry items or clothing or whatever. Women tend to be the shoppers of the house. Also, women tend to be responsible for gift buying. You don't just have to buy gifts for your family and your immediate loved ones. You have to buy gifts for the office. You have to buy gifts for in-laws. You have to buy gifts for all different things. And, a lot of times you are expected to be the social planner for your family. And that's a lot. Plus, on top of all that, you have children and caregiving coordination. I forget I think it's called the sandwich generation, where we're taking care of our parents as well as raising our children. That is a lot. That cognitive and emotional toll can really affect you. Spending can be affected by this. A lot of times, it's the retail therapy, relief from burnout. Go buy something, make yourself feel better. But at the end of the day, it's hard to add control during times of high stress. Managing stress does intersect with your money management. You need to set a realistic budget for yourself. And you need to acknowledge that when you do it, there's going to be energy level changes, emotional triggers, decision fatigue. I get that all the time. It's the whole, what do you want to eat for dinner? I don't know. Well, what about this? I don't really want that. Wait a minute. You don't know what you want, but you don't want the thing that I just recommended. That's not it. It truly is not it. It's decision fatigue. I make so many decisions throughout the entire day that I don't want to make a decision about what we're going to have for dinner. I really don't. It's like, tell me what you want. I'll help fix it, or I'll help get it here. But I don't always want to have to make decisions, especially on little things like what to have for dinner. So just be aware of this. So some of the things, that you need to think about as you go through this are, divorce and single income shifts in your life. Every person on the planet goes through multiple phases throughout their life. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. That's just guaranteed. Every good person has bad things happen to them, and every bad person has good things happen to them. Doesn't make sense, but it's just a fact. So how are we going to think about and figure out how we're going to budget, how we're going to deal with that if we're facing divorce or single income? Because let's say, unfortunately, you become a widow or a widower. Those are things that you can't always predict and you can't always be prepared for. But yet you have to have a mindset of preparing for it. You have to be prepared for the day when something catastrophic, unexpected happens to your life. How are you going to get through it? It's unfortunate and it's heartbreaking if you lose a spouse, but you need to have your finances stable enough that if you lose a spouse, you're not grieving your spouse while having to figure out, okay, how am I going to keep the house? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to feed myself? If you have already taken care of your financial stability, when your spouse dies, you get to grieve. You don't have to focus on anything else but getting through that grief. And that's what I think we all should focus on, because unfortunately, life is short and precious, and we all hope to live forever, but we're not. What's the saying? The only two things guaranteed are death and taxes. So, one of the things to do to help you build a flexible budget is to use a low month baseline. You got to look at your lowest income. What month was your lowest income? And maybe you're a traditional W-2 employee and your salary is exactly the same every month. But there's a lot of people that have commission-based incomes, they're business owners, they're seasonal employment, even career interruptions. I mean, there's a lot of things that can affect your monthly income. So when you do your budget, use your lowest income month and then create some buffer zones. Instead of just having one checking account, that's fine. Either have multiple checking accounts or multiple categories within a checking account. Have one for your fixed bills and then also have money for variable essentials, because you're going to have variable essentials going to come up. I mean, you don't know it, but this fall, your kid's probably going to want to play a sport or want to do an activity after school. Well, that's going to be extra money. And if you don't have money set aside and plan for that, it's possibly going to throw a little monkey wrench in what your budget is that month. And you don't want to tell your kids no. I'm a parent. I raised 4 of them. You don't want to ever have to tell your kid no. You can't do something that you're excited and passionate about because I don't have enough money. Get your finances straight. Make sure you have a budget in place. And then give yourself some flexibility. Have some money set aside for variables. Have money set aside for unexpected or annual or seasonal expenses. You need a little flex spending. Plan for annual expenses each month, such as car insurance, holidays, camping. Divide annually and set aside monthly. So that will help reduce the shock in the cycle. That's more realistic budgeting. It's not perfection budgeting. It's not rigid. You're taking one time a year expenses and you're dividing it up over 12 months. Let's say you anticipate that your insurance is going to be $2,000 for that year, whatever. Well, you take that dollar amount, you divide it by 12, and then you set aside the smaller amount each month. And that way, at the end of the year, the money's there. You don't have to stress. You don't have to worry. There's no thought behind it. I planned for it all year. And so it's there, you pay it, and you move on in life. Another thing you can think about is value-based budgeting. So value-based budgeting doesn't just say, what can I cut out? It says, what matters to me that I want to keep and what doesn't matter to me that I can get rid of. Align your values around security, flexibility, your family, your business, your health, and your giving. Tithes do not just have to be cash. Tithes can be your time, your hobbies, your skills, your talents. Tithing can be a lot of things in addition to money. And, too, if you are a Christian and you believe in a 10% tithe, then you want to make sure that's included in your budget, because you want your personal finances to align with your values. If it does that, then your spending reflects your values, you have less guilt, and your intentionality increases, and then you feel good about yourself. So let's make the budget empowering for you. So let's talk about some mind shifts. So an old belief might be, I need more discipline. A new belief would be, I need a system that reflects my values in my real life. Budgeting is not about control, it's about clarity, understanding, and being able to know where your money is coming in and where it's going out. And then that knowledge gives you the power to be able to grow your money. And then you're going to become wealthy. So, how are you going to set up a budget? I'm going to put a budgeting tool together that I'm going to put on the website that's going to be free. Hopefully, that'll be in the near term. But until then, when you think about a starting budget, you're going to have 4 categories to start. You're going to have your essentials, the needs, the things that have to be paid every single month. You got to have a place to live. You got to have you got to have shelter. You got to have security. You got to have food. And I think you got to have cordage was what, I think that was Les Stroud. And I hope I got it right. If not, editor, please add that because I think that was important. Even though he was talking about surviving in the wilderness, I think survival things that work. Yeah. So you're going to start, you're going to have your income every month. And again, use your lowest income month. Then you're going to have your expenses. Your expenses are going to be categorized into essentials, future you, save for yourself. You're looking at investing, buying assets. Then you got to have a flexible category that just stuff that makes you happy. You got to have a little bit of money because, maybe you had a very bad day. Maybe you had a very bad week, very bad month, very bad year. You know how it goes. And maybe you just kind of need a mental reset and you just want to go camping out in the middle of the woods. Well, great. There are some free camping locations, but a lot of them you got to pay for. And we go to state parks because they're cheaper and that's my preference. But I do know people that love to go to the RV parks that are, as expensive as staying at the Hilton. So if that's what you might need to do at some point in the future, because let me tell you, it's going to happen. You're going to go through rough periods in your life. You're going to go through great periods of your life, but I guarantee both are going to happen. So set up a budget for you to have a little bit of money set aside just to do something that brings you joy, just to do something that makes you happy. And then finally, include a line item for the annual or irregular cost. Again, that goes back to, taxes you pay once a year, seasonal activities, things for your kids, all those things. Make sure you include that as an expense, divide it by 12, and then set that money aside each month, and it's going to be a lot easier. You can refine it later. Just start simple. As I close, I just want to let you know, you are not bad with money. You just didn't get a system set up to help you. So let's change that. Let's set up a system. Financial confidence grows from alignment, not restriction. When you align your values with your budget, it's going to be a lot better for you. It's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a lot happier. It's going to be easier for you to stay on budget, and you're not going to feel restricted. You're not going to feel like you're poor. You're not going to feel like, you're not going to feel the guilt if you want to buy yourself some, I don't know. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't know the Starbucks lingo, but, mocha chocolate, venti or whatever. Y'all probably know. I don't know. I apologize, and I hope I didn't offend anybody with that. I'm just saying, if you want to have whatever you want to have, you need to be able to do it without guilt. Life is short and precious, and you should be able to live your life to the fullest, and you should be able to experience life as happy as you can. So until next time, I wish you health and wealth.